wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, Hana Kwanzaa, Cannabismas this 2020. Hello and namaste. It is I, your humble and sometimes a bit awkward host that forgot to switch the mic on just now. Welcome to the show. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Festive Kwanzaa. Feliz Navidad. And a very brilliant, shining Hanukkah to you all. Whatever holiday you normally celebrate. And or even inclusively of if you do not celebrate any given specific holiday. Atheist, spiritualist, dogmatist, zealot. Namaste to you, dear friends. And I hope you may join me in praying that despite whatever challenges or obstacles you and everyone else that we are all individually and collectively facing, that regardless of the worldly madness we all find ourselves surrounded by individually and collectively, may these end of the year high holy days of some kind of ritual or some kind of private practice bring you some kind of comfort. Genuinely and authentically, dear friends, may grace be upon you, may peace be within you, may love be flowing through you. May whichever of your preferred divinatory, deity, symbol beings, may they be with you in your heart. May peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart, folks. Hello and Merry Xmas. And I think most jubilantly, and, right around the corner, eminently, Happy New Year. Because as it may already be at the forefront of your mind, this motherfucker of a roller coaster 2020 is almost over. And now to kick off today's extra deluxe special holiday edition show, it's DJ Zed with one of his gems from the little yet discovered and of course totally fictional holiday music albums. Xmas Jazz Hop One Night in 2019. DJ Zed from High Holy Days. Here we are, together again for the very first time. All over again. Thanks for tuning in, friends. It is I, your cannabis mystic, preaching to you from, the comfort of my own home on this disastrously bizarre, almost comic bookly, unique Christmas day. It's Friday, December 25th. Did you get what you wanted for Christmas? I kind of did. Sort of. But I also, if I'm going to be really fair, kind of didn't. But it's also not quite over yet, right? In terms of the holiday season, I'll be really blunt with you. I'm kind of a weirdo and have my own traditional or, ritualized interpretation and view and approach. But I kind of consider the holiday season to begin right before Halloween. Like, as we approach Halloween, it's holiday season, and I have a trajectory in my mind for it. And to me, for my own personal thing, I kind of love New Year's the most out of the end of the year cycle of holidays. But it's a tie, really, because although I'm always paranoid to disclose my exact birth date, as everyone should be on the interwebs, only for the purposes of, it's a central linchpin and very, very useful bit of information to have for anybody who's interested in faking your identity for whatever reasons. Real life human reminder and endorsement. Stay on top of your password changes and verifying all your identity documents, etc., etc. And the New Year's, it's that time of year to do that kind of stuff. But specifically for me, New Year's, the ritual of closing out, saying goodbye to that which was this current, about to be past tense last year, and saying hello, good morning to, welcome, and namaste to the beginning of a whole new cycle. Because I do love to think in big, slightly larger than your average time frames. And I love years and I love decades. This has been a long, tough decade for yours truly. And I think also arguably for a great multitude of many other people in Trumptopia, in America, and in the world. And to that end, I thank you, friends, for, as we continue to enjoy this weird bit of jazzy music, for taking a moment to remember and honor, as is probably already your tradition, and if it isn't, if it's totally something you've never thought about as you listen to this right now, it's okay, but shame on you, but it's okay. And a little tisk, 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 and, maybe try working it in. Not just on special holidays throughout the year, but kind of maybe on the regular. But take a moment to honor and say a little genuine, authentic prayer for all those that are suffering and or have suffered past tense and are no longer with us. It's been one of those years. But let's not dwell on that darkness. It is also a time to reflect that the coldest, hardest toughest part of the cycle, we're about to get through it, and it's going to be a whole new year. There's reasons why we celebrate the end of the year and this whole idea of birth right around now. But also, everyone has their own tradition, which I do not mean to step on. In fact, I kind of, in relative terms, given my previously discussed and openly acknowledged critique and items therein against organized religion, I do love and sort of have a sweet soft spot for some, if not all, of the rituals and traditions of my own organized religion that I was brought up in, and the idea that organized religion does provide that in its own way to people, because I do think we kind of need it, right? Tradition, ritual, this sense of connection to the past and to our ancestry and our forefathers, etc., etc. The holidays is a weird, wacky time on a lot of levels if you think about it. But I digress. I didn't mean to totally talk through this piece of music. I forgot it was playing because I can't hear it when I put the thingamadoodle on. But not to disrespect you, DJ Zed. I just thought I'd try that and give it more of like an atmospheric, there's music while he's talking about stuff kind of vibe today. But yeah, the holidays is always interesting, and it has always its own curious burdens of baggage, scars, ancient trauma and recent trauma, and you know, charms and beauties and things that annoy us. From the simple trivialities of wishing someone the wrong holiday greeting to them, for whatever reasons it might be the wrong holiday greeting to them, not judging, no judgment here. But for some people, you know, I've done it. I've said the wrong thing and been like, oh, you know, if I'd just been a little bit more thoughtful, I would have known to choose a different holiday greeting to you. Some people don't like any of the compound holiday greetings, and they might find it a wee bit annoying. So there you go. You can go around full circle, right? Like, some people think there's a war on Christmas. Some people don't realize that sometimes the things that get accused of happening are only really happening in the minds of those who are angry and outraged and accusing others of doing it. And it's not actually taking place in the real world. But that's a whole other issue, which we could get into about the holidays. But I digress. That's not what I wanted to talk about. Let's open with some gratitude, right? First things first, we take a moment to just remember that there are those who are suffering. What does that help us do? Why did I bring that up already? And then even though I spiraled out of control for a second there, because then we can be grateful. And you know, we already had Thanksgiving, but you know, or whatever. But every holiday should include that as like a central theme, in my humble opinion. And it is indeed something that I try to authentically, genuinely practice. In this hot moment, I definitely need to say I am grateful for the fact that there are so many folks all over the planet that tune in to listen to me ramble on this silly little podcast show. Thank you so much, friends. I just double checked, and I guess I didn't have music still playing in the background. It's something I did want to experiment with, and I guess I'll do a little bit more successfully as the show goes on. Welcome to the show. If you're relatively new, yes, I am authentically like this in real life. Some people find it exhausting. Some people find it thrilling and entertaining. Some people ignore it, don't care, let me ramble, and it doesn't impact them. Some people also know that I'm quite judicious and tactful and don't ramble as much as I do on the show in real life in just every conversation. I ramble as much as I do on the show because I didn't know how to do a podcast when I started doing a podcast, and I knew I wanted to do it to borrow Batwoman from Batwoman, which of all of the DC comic Batman universe, like television media, might now be my new favorite. I'm not talking movies here. I'm talking TV shows that are Batman themed or Batman oriented. I think I hadn't, but that's, I gotta put a pin in that. We'll try to get around to that over there in totally irrelevant media reviews, which is a subsegment of the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo's almost daily ZenCast. Welcome to the show. You do need to sort of strap in because it is a wild and spirally careening ride through the tangled web of multi-layered, too many things on my mind. And thank you to all of you who are becoming sort of strident supporters, because I see it in the numbers, and I don't know who you are, and obviously I always intend to respect all other people's privacy as much as I explicitly recommend you respect mine. But I digress. Where are we? It's Christmas Day, right? Friday, December 25th. I didn't get this wrong. It's not Boxing Day, and it's not Christmas Eve. I only say that because I have the combination, legit, like honest, real, raw moment. This isn't part of the show. This isn't part of the literature. This is me being real as as the voice, the creative author voice behind this thing you're listening to. In real life, sincerely and authentically, I've already kind of hit the wall and punched through it on basic cabin fever. As a person who sort of already has gone through some weird things in my life where I've had to spend a lot of time kind of mostly by myself and or with people I don't know, that basically means I'm basically by myself for a bunch of different reasons, under a bunch of different contexts. Don't choose the worst ones. Don't judge me that way. I mean, like from being stuck in foreign countries, basically on my own after having been with other people, or being stuck in foreign countries with other people that I don't know very well, etc. I think I was relatively prepared for the endurance marathon that pandemic lockdown 2020, I thought, would kind of most likely become. There was a lot of optimism about locking it down nice and tight, bending the curve. Some even hoped totally breaking the transmission line, which is, to me, the only thing actually worth critically achieving in the let's say opening window, right? If you just discovered a new virus, which is known to happen and will very likely happen more and more often for various reasons, both concrete and theoretical, you have to sort of, anticipate some things that based on models of, prior experience. I would have, as I've shared before on the show, I would have loved to have really cleanly broken the line of transmission at a global level in a meaningful way by April. Not because Trump picked April and said it would magically go away, but because, and I don't know what it would have taken other than the virus itself being like too aggressive, too virulent, too toxic and deadly, too destructive of the human organism. Like if it starts to achieve like movie level status, if it starts to resemble the impact of the Dustin Hoffman movie, etc., then I think people would have much more quickly and eminently and intensely done the lockdown thing without such a wide mixed bag motley crew coalition of rebels trying to find a uniform cause to deny in multiple ways that it's worth doing. And I don't mean to go launch into a critique of them. This is a holiday show. I mean to suggest that it would have been beautiful if there had been no virus, if we had been savvy about it, or it had been a little bit gorier. Like, if the same number of people could have died, in other words, not making it more deadly, but if everyone that died in a much more, and forgive me, this is like one of those horrible thoughts that's probably way too soon, but it might also be like wickedly, darkly, morbidly funny to the right people in the right mindset. But if it had just sort of like killed a few more younger people in a gross, disgusting, like, oh my God, their brains melted and spewed out their nose, what? And if a little bit more concrete, like here's pictures of the actual viral body, and here's more transparent documentation of a little bit less like shenanigansy type stuff had happened. Because obviously, I've been saying from the beginning, incompetence and corruption are clearly rampant. And that's not even a critique of COVID or of the, quote, response. That's a critique of the entire thing we call our global society. No offense, everybody. We have to own up to that, right? If we're gonna heal it, we can't just keep pretending that we're virtuous and righteous and true, and it's everybody else's fault. But that's exactly what the tribalism does to us. And the tribalism, by the way, is ye ancient, ye oldie time. As I hate to break it to people all the time, as I put it on Facebook all the time, I hate to break it to you, folks, but the NWO, like that, the N in that is new. It ain't so new. It was pretty well established long before the person we refer to by the name of Jesus Christ was even born, whenever he was born, right? And there's an argument and debate. I sort of fancy and think the most probable, to tie it all back into a Christmas theme, I think the most probable, and this is what I've put into my puzzle piece for the Jesus question in my theory of everything, the most probable and plausible and believable theory is that the actual real life person is someone that may have happened prior to when it is attributed to in the general post Roman Catholicization and then global redistribution of Christian idea, of the very idea of the person we call Jesus Christ. And we can get into a long discussion there, and I don't mean to offend anybody on the very day that we mark to celebrate the birth of baby Jesus. But I think there is very likely a deep, meaningful truth. It's just broader spectrum, weirder and bigger and more intense than what any of the various flavors of what we call Christianity, quote unquote, contain, because it was, right? Like, those are all representatives of derivative work that kept getting harnessed for specific purposes, especially during the time when corruption ran the most rampant, which we have to own up to, both in the past and in the present. Wow, what a spiral. But anyways, how's your Christmas going, friends? Do you have a roof over your head in any way, shape, or form, even if that's some sort of assistance housing or shelter or tent? Do you have people that you care about around you that are inside of your COVID bubble? Do you have enough to eat? I know that I am, and that I woke up today like deeply, profoundly moved. This is the least I've celebrated Christmas in my life. I Zoom called with my most immediate nuclear family, which is sort of curiously and funnily and awkwardly bigger than it used to ever be for me as a real life person, because, step family. Sorry, I just shinned the desk with my knee, which made an awkward noise, which I'm sure your ears didn't enjoy. I apologize. What was I saying? I was getting a little emotional too, so I got distracted. My family is recently, relatively speaking, gotten a little bit bigger. Hi, step family, should you ever get around to listening to this. I send you much love. And so that was fun and interesting and wild. And I was haunted by the fact that, they were all here last year at this time. We spent the holidays together last year. And they were here through until my birthday, which I don't... I'm kind of always annoyed that Facebook does a birthday thing and announces your birth date on Facebook. I kind of wanted to never do that. But I'm also, conversely, to go on a weird tangent, and which is spuriously connected to Christmas because it is a birthday, right? Christmas, if you really think about it, is us all going, happy birthday, baby Jesus, and also adult Jesus, and all the whatever versions of Jesus you believe in and or think of. We're basically saying happy birthday, right? And for those of you who haven't gathered, I'm kind of a fan of Jesus. He and I are on terms. I like to call him Yeshua, personally. And I have a really specifically defined, non-traditional, non-Catholic, most American Christians would be like, who are you? And some would even probably dare call me heresy. But as you may have gathered, my personal opinion and chosen relationship with Yeshua Christos is based on a lifetime of questioning and seeking and earnestly inviting Yeshua to show me what Jesus meant by what they spoke, right? So I'm either crazy or I'm a bit of a wacko that's pointing towards something that maybe or maybe not is worth looking into. But for those who are dying of curiosity, I've had the way I formulate my quote relationship with Jesus is to recognize that he, as well as many others, were people who were transformed and taken, assumed, ascended, consumed, and integrated into a higher order of operations than we currently visually and contextually have access to. And that arguably their message to everyone was, you can do this too. It's not some special reward for just the most exclusively the best. It's something that you can all achieve and is ultimately the species' birthright of humanity. Humanity is destined either to become exactly what Yeshua Christos attempted to describe for us in metaphor and in code and through magic, through actual magic, and through being that kingdom, being that body made up of light, and showing us, what ascension really is, and living by example, which is, of course, a crazy, wicked, slap to your face kind of challenge, no matter how you're looking at it, right? Because in every context, whether you're a Jew for Jesus or a Roman Catholic with a sort of like supposedly centrist, somewhat orthodox view, or whether you're over there in the other orthodox tradition, or somewhere in the spectrum in between, or some of the post American liberated versions, let's call it. I was trying to choose my words carefully. Ultimately, tell me I'm wrong, but despite the obvious and clear fact that it gets misused, misunderstood, misinterpreted, abused, and corrupted all over the place, we're looking at you politicians everywhere, and on many ways and on all levels. Ultimately, what we celebrate when we celebrate the holidays around Jesus is the invitation to become what Jesus is. And our problem, the reason we've got different religions all arguing, and just even different varieties of Christianity, all kind of elbowing each other like really feisty teenagers in a mosh pit. They want to be the king of the mosh pit, which means literally standing on the faces of everybody else. How's about that for a mixed metaphor? Ultimately, the words of Jesus are an invitation to become. He says, all that which I can do, you too, you also can do. The kingdom of heaven, the The kingdom of God is within. If thine eye be singular, then thy body shall be made up of light. Not to get all my weird version of Bible thumpy, but there's some thoughts on the reason for the season. And we'll come back after a cleansing of the audio palette, rather, not the audio planet, with a wee bit more wild, crazy discussion about things like the reason for the season and the message and the questions about all those things and much, much more. As always, I hand it off to DJ Zed imaginarily while I take a brief break myself. Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses? Usually, this time of year, as I was mentioning before, I would be just so deeply involved in a production of A Christmas Carol that I would work at my regional theater. And that theater, I haven't worked at it for very long or very often, but it has been a tradition, and I've kind of been at least adjacent remotely. Like, I would load it in. I have been involved in a load-in for a lot longer than I've worked the actual run crew. And that may be a meaningless distinction for some, and you'll forgive me. But the theater itself has been presenting this very kind of quirky and particular and very approachable, very, very American, very sort of family-friendly production of A Christmas Carol that is, in its own right, like a local Southern California family tradition. There are people there with their grandparents and all the way down to from grandparents to great grandkids, and I'm reminded there's so many thoughts on that vector, by the way, both literally in terms of memories from having worked the show, memories from having loaded in the lights for the show, and just my own memories of the fact that although I've never been a huge celebrator of Christmas in as much as that I'm not into, and please forgive me if I'm offending, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not into the Christmas carol, like songs. Like when radio stations start playing Christmas music right around Halloween, like some years, that just drives me batshit crazy. Forgive me. And I have no judgment for all those who love that. Obviously, I've worked a show and I've worked at a theater with people who obviously, that has attracted, or, because of this show being such a long-standing tradition, people want to work that show. People who are in the industry and part of the sort of network of theaters in what you'd call the local range of where there are opportunities to work in professional theater here in Southern California. And so Christmas people love this show. And I'm not a Christmas person for a bunch of reasons, right? Not the least of which being that at a very young age, a couple of times before I went to a Catholic high school, a private Catholic high school, and also in response to having been at a Catholic high school, I have rejected Catholicism as an organized religion and all of its derivatives, all of its offshoots, not the people involved, right? Like it's like wanting to reform and radically change and redistribute the power and money behind how policing works, and not necessarily hating cops, right? Like I don't hate cops. There are horrible people who are also cops, but I don't blanket statement in an absolutist way hate all cops, right? I categorically reject organized religion, while I simultaneously love the traditions, mythos, teachings, wisdom, mysteries, symbols, and some of the practices, not all, of a wide range of the root sources that eventually became organized religions, and even some of the fun, weird remnants of those ancient sources and stuff in the postmodern context. I'm weird. I have a love-hate relationship with the holidays. I'm also one of those weirdos that doesn't want people to do things for my birthday. Like, the most complicated I want is a dinner. Like, I'd either, if I were wealthy and or doing well enough, I would invite a group of people out to dinner, and I don't do that. I've never. I mean, that's when I do it. When I have done it, is for my birthday or for when I'm doing a show. If I have enough money to afford to take people, yeah. And I apologize to anybody who's done a show with me and I didn't take that cast out in the ancient past, because there have been some shows where I just couldn't fucking afford it. But I always try to do something. Anyways, I'm a weirdo is my point. To go off on too many tangents. And I'm weird in the way in which I mark or celebrate holidays myself. Like, and I'm not about I openly kind of speak and rail against the consumerized, the result of the consumerification that we can clearly identify of holy days. It's not holidays. It literally should be high holy days. Although, to some people that speaks of being too stuffy and weird and oppressive and or, a pagan, therefore wrong. But I digress. It's been a strange year. 2020, for me, is capping off with the strangest holiday season I've ever had. Sort of like TMI warning. I'm a relaxed and groovy kind of person. To some personality archetypes, that appears to be very lazy. To others, I seem to be very motivated, but also very comfortable knowing how to relax. That's the way I see it. I have never spent this much time in my pajamas. Traditionally, the few days after Christmas, because I'm either busy with shows and or a party and or family gatherings or whatnot, would be days that I would spend sort of like, okay, we just finished Christmas. It's the day after Boxing Day, if you've got that in your country. I like to just, but basically from Christmas through to my birthday, I like to lounge about. And I'm usually pretty reclusive. I've done the family events. I've just did Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas, and New Year's. I usually have preferred to go off and do my own kind of party experience. That's when I connect with friends, and or like to go out into the world and mingle. I've got a couple of favorite things. Like, if I could be in the Bay Area on New Year's, that's when I like to go to a proper rave. Because no offense, SoCal, but NorCal it's all better there. It just is. Just the whole vibe. I don't want to diss the SoCal rave scene. I don't even know if there still is. That's tough, because I haven't gone to a rave. Listen, kids, I haven't gone to a rave in literally probably like getting on almost 20 years. No, that's a bit much. Like at least 11 years. 11, maybe 14, maybe 13 years. I don't know how many it's not like I went to a million raves. I wanted to go to raves as the moment I heard about raves and the moment I heard rave music and or met people who were into raves and or had friends and or siblings into raves. Electronic music, EDM still feels a little new to me. And whatever all you new kids like to call it now, I'm not keeping tabs, trying to keep trendy. And there is some forms of electronic dancey party music that I think is total garbage. Just like any genre, there's like people who make brilliant things that are moving and have story and soundscape and texture and whatever, and most importantly, when it comes to EDM, they make your body move in weird, interesting ways that you don't know where it comes from, but my body wants to do this wiggling around, as I like to call it. And there's garbage that just fails. It doesn't work. And it's just painful to listen to. As there is in any genre. But why am I talking about it? I don't know. Christmas Carol, the show. Shout out to anybody who may randomly be related to that theater. Is not my theater. I don't know the theater. I'm one of the lowest of the low there. But I humbly beg everyone's forgiveness I've ever annoyed, but also proudly say I've worked there for at least, give or take, a decade, because I've taken off for like a year or so, but it's got to have been at least 11 or 12 years from beginning to end, if not more. I don't keep track. And also anybody who's got a theater in their life. Special shout out to you and to everybody in those buckets, whether they're listening to the show or not. It is the totally unscripted, totally real, totally raw holiday Christmas Day special with your favorite esoteric, eccentric podcast, radio, talk show style host, the one and only, incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. I hope that whatever context you find yourself in, that you're also listening to this show, may you be blessed with something that brings you cheer, besides tuning in to listen to me ramble about the world. And may it not be too painful, and may it not be too horrible. And may whatever discomfort and whatever challenges and whatever obstacles and whatever pain and whatever suffering you're going through, may you be reminded this holiday season that no matter how isolated you feel, you are not alone. Literally, metaphorically, spiritually, esoterically. Even though you may be remote from a lot of people you'd rather be intermingling with, or maybe you're just one of those people that is not worried about the virus and is out there aggressively mingling with others. no matter what, we're all in this truly together, both metaphorically, both literally, because we are literally stuck on this planet all together. Oh, and I just missed 11:11. It's 11:15. And we're going to get through it. And we don't need to choose violence to solve any of it. And I thank you for tuning in. This has been part 1. I'll be back in a hot minute after deciding whether I'm going to microwave these teas that have gone cold or brew a fresh batch or what. But I just rambled my way quicker through a full-on 45 plus minutes of a holiday spiraling rant at you. Whatever you're doing, thank you for tuning in to listen to this show, whether it's this hot second on your actual real life Friday, December 25th, or in the coming days. And I hope you are aware that things will get better, and there is something we can do, and that's reach deep down inside and look for that evidence of those energies and that united, unified, and opened eye that Yeshua and so many others spoke of, and that just the struggle to seek within facilitates everyone. Of all the years imaginable to reach out and ask for help, this is a year to not talk yourself out of it, friends. If you are in a tight spot emotionally, financially, etc., don't be afraid to reach out. Just be gentle with yourself and be gentle with the people you reach out to, because everyone's struggling emotionally, intellectually, etc., etc., etc. But it's also a time for all of us out there that are in any way, shape, or form capable of trying to reach out and help others within the reasonable limits. One mustn't endanger one's own safety and or stability too much, but one should also not use that statement as a rationalization to not try and do something to help. So, if you are not in a position to help others, you should look around and find out if you should just focus on your gratitude and, build towards being in a position towards helping others, which I believe is where I am at. For which I'm really full of gratitude. But I think, as I have in the past, and as as we all, I think we have this sort of responsibility to look around and say, what can I do to help someone else? Can I shop a local, craftsperson's Etsy shop, etc., whatever the real life version of that is for you. Not to be too corny, folks, but in all honesty, just tuning into the show and downloading it, especially if you're downloading it in the right way that, as annoying as it is, includes the ads, then you are in your way doing a little tiny bit to help this guy right here, this performance artist that, because of the pandemic, doesn't have any of the work and the privileges and luxuries previously, associated to being able to express myself artistically at the level that I was able to prior to all of this, which wasn't even, I can't even brag. It's not like I was in any way, shape, or form anywhere near becoming famous. I was definitely an undiscovered theater nerd. But I had so much at my disposal, and so many awesome people in my theater circles, and I learned so much in the time I spent, doing theater with others, either for free or for pay, in any of the theater buildings in which I participated in doing theater. And while there is still some semblance of some theaters doing some kind of work, and I applaud that, the vast majority of the spectrum of potential work available to peoples like myself who worked in the theater industry is, temporarily mostly gone. But to bring it full circle, folks, take a moment to ground yourself in gratitude, right? And don't let the woe is me's terror of everyone is facing tough times. Everyone is facing uncertainty. Everyone is facing the challenges that are challenging the world and the world's people together at different degrees, right? And together, I think we can not just survive, but bring ourselves to a place where we are once again thriving. But anyways, I'm rambling through the Christmas music. This is the end of part 1 of today's special holiday broadcast. I'm so unaccustomed to being home and being, free enough to do a podcast during the holidays that I don't think in the past I've done very many. So I may be back for a part 2. This has been a special production of CTAG Studios, a wholly owned subsidiary of the completely and entirely imaginary production company owned by myself, and I, yours truly, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. All music was created using either the Remix Live or the Groove Pad application. Peace out, friends, and go forth and share a little bit of that peacefulness